Okay. Hello, Bill. Good to see you.
And you?
Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
We're in Scotland right now. You've come up from England. We're not meant to be sat in the sofa right now, where we're meant to be.
We are supposed to be in a beautiful flat reservoir, working on our technique for outdoor swimming.
Yes.
But apparently the Scottish gods had other ideas because it's 30 miles per hour and raining sideways.
So we did go to the reservoir, but it was looking far from ideal. So I think the best thing to do is to get into some swimming chat right now. We both come from a swimming background, maybe got done a few different things along the way. You've got a couple of really exciting swimming things, events and whatnot coming up. So this could be a good time to, I guess, share our experience and our knowledge and seeing if we can answer some hot topics in the swimming world.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess to start off, then we could just do a couple quick introductions for the ones listening and understand a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So I'll go first. My name is Dan Wallace. I was an Olympic swimmer. I've then gone on to, I guess, get a bunch of experience in ice swimming, distance swimming. So I'm in English Channel twice now. So I've been fortunate enough to, explore a lot of different sides of the swimming world, which we'll get into because there's a lot of different ways you can be a swimmer. And I think that that's really important. And swimming looks very different from everyone. So, I guess I've come from a traditional pool swimming background and then gone on to do a few different things. But what about yourself, Phil? Who are you?
My name is Phil Hawthorne. I'm head of design and ESG at Red Paddle. I come from a traditional swimming background as well. Mm-hmm. I then I went off to uni, studied, travelled, found myself working behind the desk, but I've recently tried to get back into swimming and, more importantly, outdoor swimming.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So both come from a traditional swimming pool background, but I've had, I guess, little bits of experiences in different areas of swimming. So how would you describe yourself as a swimmer? What type of swimmer are you today?
Today, but not as fit as I used to be.
Yeah, that happens. That's okay.
So traditionally, I was a sprint swimmer.
Yeah.
50s, 100 meters, short. Everything's done and dusted in a minute, or hopefully under a minute. And mainly flying crawl, basically.
Okay, cool. And we've already spoken about this off camera as well. And if you're a swimmer, you know that swimming is intense and it's difficult. There's a big demand. If you're especially as a young swimmer, we were both early mornings, late evenings, twice a day, 6 days a week. That's what swimming used to look like for me and for you. What does swimming look like now? How often do you swim? Who do you swim with?
Up until recently, it was a couple of times a week.
Yeah.
Just to keep that base level fitness, minimum flexibility, a bit of downtime after you've been in the office all day, bit of nice and just me time. But then recently, I've started to step it up a bit. I've joined our local club and squad, and now it is in a mad dash to try and get fit 5 times a week.
Okay, cool. 5 times a week and you swim in the squad. I think that's, it's quite important. I quite often these days, if I go for a swim, it's maybe with one other person. I don't really have that team connection to sport anymore. I definitely used to. So I value how nice that can be from like an accountability side of things, from even a social side of things. Like swimming is great because if I go for a swim on my own, like that's my own time. That's a bit of headspace. It can be nice and relaxing. But then there's also the side where, it brings people together and you can.
And I think that's it. Is me going on my own. I'll push myself.
Yeah.
But I won't push myself to what I need to do. And I think that's the thing, is joining this new squad. I've been there for just over a month now, and there's some great guys. And it's all come back. And there's such a range of abilities as well. And it's quite nice getting in there and just, it's like, it's been a different life, and I've been asleep, and now I'm awake and I'm back in that world, and I did forget for a bit what it was like, and my wife has also got into swimming the last few years.
Oh, so
just because of me.
yeah,
Because she's like, oh, what's this swimming thing?
that's what all about.
And she started going, and I've even said to her, like, you should join this club, because I think it's intimidating if you see a load of people just swimming up and down. But if you've got a good club near you, and there's there's all sorts of different ranges. I think there's 60, 70-year-olds in the club.
Yeah.
And then there's like 10, 15, like there's everything.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because you can go, you get a good, especially with the guys that are sort of my age, we can have a bit of banter and it's nice, and there's a bit of camaraderie, and then they can help you. It's different from what it used to be. It's a bit more inclusive, and it's a bit more welcoming, but at the same time, like you said, you've got that accountability. We feel like, right, I've got to go there, I'm going there. But once you're in there, you forget about that, and then you just I zone out and just think, I'm here, like, and you just feel it.
Because it's interesting, because swimming can be so many different things for people. It can be, like we said there, a time to escape from the outside world. It can be somewhere where you're working hard and you feel really great afterwards, or you feel like you've done something really meaningful for your either mental or physical health. There's also the social side of it as well.
Yeah.
So kind of what's the main purpose of, like, why you swim today? What are you looking to get out for? You know, say you're going for a swim on a Thursday night, what are you looking to get out of that session?
I think it's more that release, that sort of the feel of not even afterwards, because afterwards you feel great, but I mean, it's during, because it's one of those where you sort of think, I don't like this, but there's a fine line just after you think, I love this. Like, this is, and it's just a release of energy. Everything's out the window. You're just focused on what you've got to do. I think that, for me, that's what I try and get out is it's burn time for me. That's part of the process that I've got. Just doing something, just being fully immersed and just letting go and going with it.
Yeah.
For me,
So that's like almost like the reward you get out of it is the way that it makes you feel. And then what's also nice, and something that I've always worked with, is always, like, you know, swimming for a reason, or doing something that's goal orientated. So having a goal that you're either working towards. So it might not be like that, the daily goal, like why I'm swimming, unless you're doing something specific that day, but it might be like long term. Okay, I'm like, if you're training for something, which I know you are. So,
and I think that's helped a lot, because I know throughout life, in everything, if you've got a vision, if you've got to revise for some tests, or if you've got to do something for work, or swimming, you've got to break that minute. I remember that was an absolute mountain.
yeah, it's a big benchmark.
But once you get there, and it's something to really strive for and work at and focus on.
Okay, so we've spoken about kind of the fact that setting yourself goals is really important. For me, it just keeps me really accountable. If I'm training towards a goal, whether it's an event I've got coming up, and maybe it's time specific, or just a fitness goal, feeling stronger or fitter, and then what you can do there is then just create a plan on how to reach to that goal. Yeah, exactly. And I think that just makes it, one, feel much more achievable, but also, as you said, keeps you accountable for making sure you're swimming X times a week, or you're eating well and you're living well. And so for you, what's the big goal that you've got coming up then?
I've got to compete in an ultra swim, which is in Croatia, and it's 33.3 kilometers long, which is easily the longest swim I've ever had to do. Yeah, that's pretty much why I've come up here.
And is that's the longest swim you've ever done? What is the longest swim you've ever done so far? Or even the longest training session?
I think I've done a couple of charity swims, maybe 5K.
Yeah.
I think just to islands and back, or just for fun swims. That's how you put. But nothing anywhere near this. So lots of questions, and because it's a completely new thing for me. As we said off camera, is my entire focus up until I was in the late teens was get to one end of the pool and back as fast as humanly possible. And that was in a controlled environment. You could see everything. You didn't have to breathe that much. It was completely different rules. Yes, it was swimming, but whereas this is the unknown. This is open water. You've got wind, tide. You can't see. You've got sight. It's completely different.
Yeah. So, and it's good that you appreciate that it's different, because it is. So if you've set yourself, so you're a pro swimmer, you're a super capable swimmer, you train quite often, but you've signed up for a distance that you've not done anything really close to that before. What is it you think, in your opinion, that's going to help you get to that point feeling confident before you start a race? What do you need to do from now until then to think, yeah, I'm going to give this a good crack and I think it's going to go well?
Well, fitness.
Yep.
Because I as I said, my day job is sat behind a desk, as quite a few people do, and that creeps up on you. And I think, yes, I was going a couple of times a week, but it wasn't really. It was just keeping a base. Whereas doing a bit like this, I feel like I want to sort of make an effort and really sort of make a dent. So I'm working on the fitness thing, great. But the thing I think is going to be more difficult is the mental side of things, because, like I said before, I had one speed and it was explosive. I can't do that in this event. That will not work. Yes, I will be first out for the first 60 seconds. And then I've got to keep going. How am I going to pace myself, to manage my, not just physical energy, but emotional energy? Because I will walk to go and I will think I've got something in the tank, and that is not something I'm wired to do. Is get it all out, go as quickly, and you can't do that.
No one can.
You've got to hold it back. And I think that is going to be the biggest conflict internally that I'm going to be fighting with, up until probably, I don't know how long it'll take, but up until there's a certain point where I think, you know what, my energy levels are at a point now where, right, just go. Mm-hmm. But it's getting to that point that makes me the most nervous.
Yeah. And that's definitely a really good skill to try and work on. And it happens every day when you're in the pool, you know, even though you're not swimming nearly that total distance in one session, but you might have a session where you may be asked to swim at different intensities. And it's very common for a lot of swimmers to just have one speed and it's just go, you know. Yeah. It's they swim the same speed in the warm up, in the main set, in the cool down. They'll swim that speed in, like, your event, for example. You'll swim that speed and you'll realize, I can't hold on to this. So from a coach's point of view, something I try and work on quite a lot is just having different gears to move through. So it's kind of being patient at the start of your session. Say you're doing the warm-up now. The warm-up is not there to make you fitter or really to make you stronger. It should be there to just get yourself ready, get yourself in the zone, stretch out your stroke, start to get the connection to the water feeling good. Maybe work on a couple of specific skills as well, or just set yourself up for the session. And then there's going to be different points throughout the session where you're asked to swim faster or slower. And, you know, that's when you have to be very, I guess, particular with how hard you're trying at different parts of your session and listening to the instructions well. It's, you know, I've coached for quite a bit now, and I was a swimmer myself, and it's very easy to listen to what the instruction is, go at this pace for that, this pace for that, and progress. It's very easy to just think, I'm just going to go in and just do the easy option and just plod up and down. And that, I think, for me, it kind of enforces a little bit of laziness as well, because people just kind of, if you plod up and down for 2 hours, you're not engaged in what you're doing as well. You're quite often, your technique will fall apart because you're maybe just daydreaming or you're just not thinking about what you're doing there. So being able to swim slowly when you need to and then fast when you need to is very important, because that's going to allow you to then have the skills in your race to hang back at the start, get into your stroke rhythm, get into your pacing, seeing how you progress. Maybe you're halfway through and you're feeling quite good. Can you pick up the pace ever so slightly? And then can you pick up the pace again towards the end? So it's having different gears. So that comes from the mental approach to your training every single day, not just going in and swimming up and down aimlessly. It's having a different focus for each section of your training, or each day throughout the week, you've got a different focus as well. And it kind of also goes back to, you know, your technique as well. And I've not seen you swim. Hopefully we're going to see you swim after this, but I haven't seen your technique, but I know you come from a pool background, so your swimming ability is really good. So what that does is it gives you the opportunity to focus on your technique enough that you can have 5 different gears, and they all have the same technical foundations. They all look the same, but as you get faster, you're just applying more effort and more pressure, and you're exerting more energy. Maybe your stroke rate picks up, maybe your kick rate picks up, but on the flip side, you can slow it all down as well. So technically, you're so well-rounded that you can actually just try slightly harder and not fall apart. Whereas the issue with some people is they don't have those gears because they only swim at one pace. So when they try to go faster, it all falls apart. And then that's when they can't withstand that faster pace for a very long time. Or they go slower and it's not connecting well.
I think that's the thing is, in years gone by, I've not had to use my brain as much in an event. Or I might have done that, and it's just been so ingrained and intrinsic. Whereas this, I am finding that I'm working my brain probably harder than I am my body, because it's a case of every little position and movement and body location is critical to saving energy or propelling forward, and head movements, rotation, everything. So yeah, I think that's
and that's something that I do quite a lot, and it's a really good way of keeping me engaged in what I'm doing, because quite often my mind will just race somewhere else when I'm swimming, which in a way is nice at times because you can switch off.
There's a time and place.
There's a time and place, but like you also want to be focused on the right thing. So I use my technique to keep me engaged in what I'm doing. So I know a couple of simple cues for me to think about within my technique, either areas I'm trying to improve within my technique or areas in my technique that allow me to feel really good. So maybe my body position, maybe it's my stroke rate, maybe it's making sure I'm holding on to water on my catch. I know a couple of things that I'll just focus on, like maybe even like 15 minutes at a time. So maybe in the warm-up, I'm thinking about one specific part of my technique that's just going to keep me grounded on what I'm doing. And another really great thing I use as well is my stroke count.
Yeah.
So I know if I'm swimming in a 25-meter pool or a 50-meter pool, what my typical stroke rate will be for like my low aerobic easy swimming. So if I count my strokes and it's way off, maybe I'm taking 4 more strokes length for over 50 meters than I normally would, then I go, hold on, I need to maybe sharpen up my technique a little bit. So it just immediately, it's a good reference point of how efficient I am in the water. So I use stroke rate quite often, because it's got nothing to do with how fast you're going or how hard you're trying. It's just a really nice way of just checking in.
Yes.
So that's a good thing to focus on, is kind of stroke count, or getting a couple of key cues for you to zone in on your technique. That's going to allow you to think about what you're doing.
I think that's something that, I'm aware of sort of my DPS and influence stroke rate, but in a pool, I can do that.
Yeah.
Whereas open water, I wouldn't know what that is over 25, and I think that's a thing that I've got to, because there's no tiles, there's no flags, there's no lane ropes. How do I know if I'm going to? And with this is all the things that I said. I think I'm going to be pushing my body, but I'm going to be pushing my brain a heck of a lot more.
And that's exactly it. So then, if you've got your daily cues that you think about, your daily elements of your technique that you know because you count your strokes, you know that when you think about those, you become more efficient in the pool. So maybe in the warm-up, you think about your catch, your kick, your body position, whatever it is, and you know once you've addressed them, and maybe you've done a couple of drills to help work on them, you know that your efficiencies are improved. So when you're in the open water, you can't do your drills in your event, and you can't do your stroke rate, but you know what you've been working on in the pool, so you just take that into the open water. So, when you're going through your event, maybe you're an hour into your event, and you go, right, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes really thinking about having a high elbow catch, or really thinking about how's my body position, or how heavy is my breathing. So having those cues to just dial back to that is going to be working on your technique and working on your efficiency and improving your efficiency. So it's having the ability to, like you said, transfer what you work on in the pool into your open water, whether that's going for an easy open water swim or whether it's actually applying it on race day in a competition. Like, that skill is really beneficial. Because in my opinion, other than if you've got a bit of chop and you need to fix your breathing or adding in things like sighting, technically you should be pretty similar in the open water as compared to in the pool, which it's a really good way of ensuring your technique's going to be good, is if you can just apply the same principles in the pool to the open water.
I think that's the thing, is the physical techniques. Yes, there's always things that I can tune and improve and get better, but the mental techniques, I think, is going to be a big. It's quite exciting though, because like you said, it's just bringing that back and changing the context a bit, but actually being able to focus in on those for a set period of time and having the discipline to go through that is going to be, it is quite exciting. It's quite nerve-wracking as well, because I can do that over an hour, 2 hour session. But after these are going to be long events, and it's a case of there's other things going on as well, and it's having that focus and ability to do that. It is exciting. It's quite. Yeah, because
it's different. So, I mean, in the open water, especially for the first few times when we're doing your first event, the whole experience and kind of how it makes you feel is very different from being in the pool. That by now you are and I am very comfortable being in the pool. You feel very safe. The pool is a standard distance, more or less a standard temperature. You're very familiar with that environment, whereas when you're in open water, there's a few more things to consider or to gain experience in, like your surroundings are different. The weather, as we saw today, can completely change how that swim is going. The temperature of the water, getting used to maybe wearing different equipment in the open water. So things like maybe your goggles need to be different. Maybe you're wearing a wetsuit for one of the first times, so you're going to feel different in the open water compared to the pool. So for you, kind of maybe what are some of the big things you want to gain more experience in, or some of the main challenges you think you're going to face in the open water compared to swimming in a pool?
Physically, I think probably head roll, really, because I know exactly where the water is when I'm breathing. I know exactly where I should be. I don't need to think about it or look about it. It's like breathing there. But like you said, that's in a controlled, flat environment. Even if it is a bit choppy, it doesn't matter. Whereas in the open water, I mean, it's random, isn't it? There's way, but do I have to? And then when I'm pulling back, it's just going to be a different bit of roll, a bit of pitch, and I think that initially.
Because and breathing is the number one.
It's quite important.
It's very important. It's the number one challenge that people face. And like, if you're getting started in a pool, for example, or like if I speak to someone and say, how does swimming make you feel? And they go, I find it really difficult. I find it really hard. I do one length, I'm exhausted. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be down to their breathing. So that's a very key element to get right when you're first learning. But then also when you transition into the open water, so maybe you're a bit more of a confident swimmer and a competent swimmer, breathing is still a very big challenge to overcome in the open water, because one, your breathing might be shortened a little bit if it's cold. The temperature can play on your breathing, especially when you start your swim, or especially when you start a race. You've got a bit of adrenaline, panic breathing is something to try and get familiar with avoiding. So controlling your breathing in the open water is really important. But then there's actually the technical side of getting that breath in am I going to have to lift my head higher? Am I going to have to turn my neck more? And in the, an ideal situation, you won't, but in the open water, there's going to be times where you've got a bit of chop when you need to be breathing a bit more. So,
and it's not going to be the same every time.
No, it's going to be,
that's the thing.
It can be completely different. Every breath might feel very different, whereas in the pool, most breaths are going to feel the same.
And you've got to adapt.
And that's the big thing, is your stroke is not going to feel the same. You're going to have to feel a little bit more lumpy, a little bit more up and down, a bit more undulation in your stroke, but that's fine. So I think the big thing from my side is something that I've learned to do and something that I try and teach is, and you've mentioned it already, is being adaptable. So can your stroke be adaptable from what it is in the pool to in the open water? You shouldn't have a completely different stroke, but can you tailor it? It's almost like, can you have 5 different gears when you're training, So, and that all comes down to having a really sound foundation, a really strong technical foundation. So your technique is as good as it can be, and that's mostly likely done in the pool. Then can you take that to the open water and can you tweak it slightly where you're still being as efficient as you can, but you're allowing yourself either more time to get a breath or you're coming up a bit higher. And when you start to add in things like sighting, so giving yourself the ability to see where you're going, lifting your eyes above the water, or maybe sighting as you breathe, again, that's going to throw your body alignment out a little bit, but it's something you have to do, something you have to overcome, it's something you have to adapt to. So I think for you, if there's any technical worries or you think you might have to change your stroke slightly, yeah, of course you are. That's gonna have to happen so that you feel that you've got a strong open water technique. But it all comes down to, in my opinion, working on the right things in the pool, getting your technique as sound as you possibly can. And that for me is, it's something that I always try and find ways to improve, and I always try and find different ways to experience swimming. And for me as a pro swimmer, to go into the open water and then ice swimming, and I like to find different ways to get better. So that's kind of the main focus for me.
Yeah.
So you obviously come from a pro swimming background. You swam for years. Technique, you got a really good understanding of it. And even from coaching, you go and you swim with a team now. But as far as how you were taught to swim and maybe some of the resources that you've used over the years, what does that look like now, and what do you think you could maybe benefit from?
What does it look like from now? I mean, I do. I mean, in years gone by, obviously you start off with the swimming teachers, and you have coaches, and you have loads of coaches, and you work, and you go to people like food you're eating, and what you should be wearing, what you should be doing in the pool and things. And then I started reading up on it, and because you have to immerse yourself and learn about the actual theory behind it. And that was when I was really in the thick of it. And then I took a bit of a back seat, as I said, and then now I think, because obviously Instagram wasn't a thing when I was doing that. Now you you look on your social, you follow other people that are similar and it's quite nice, because you can get other people's perspectives, different clubs, different terminologies, different drills and things and techniques, and I'm learning new drills all the time, which is great, because you think, oh, of course that's a good drill, that's a great drill, let's do that, and you apply that and you learn that, but it's not really holistic. It doesn't really give you an all-round piece and think about what is it that you want. It's by chance, really. I'm just looking because it's something that I'm interested in. It's not because I go there for that resource pack. And it's from yes, they're similar. They come from a high level of swimming background, but they're not. That's not what they do. And I think at the minute there's not really something that I think, you know what, that's something that I could really embrace.
Yeah, 'cause I think you're totally right. There's loads of information out there. There's loads of coaches out there. It's so accessible to see little bits here and there. But from a coach myself, and even from a swimmer myself, it's really important to kind of have an overall support system, or an overall kind of framework to work on your your entire, like, let's just pick technique, for example. It's great to get a little bit of advice from your friend or see one video on Instagram, but to actually get an understanding of, what each technical element, why it's important, what it actually does, and then like how to improve it. And then also, like, you go for a swim and you look at the ones that are making it look so easy. They're all working on this similar things. They're all working on the same problems, the same strengths within their stroke. Like, there's only so many ways to do things wrong, only so many ways to do it right. And swimming has been around for a long time, and I swam for so many years that I understand like the blueprint of areas to be working on. So instead of just getting little bits of advice here and there, it's actually going through like a full breakdown of almost every element of your stroke and understanding why they're important. Because there's common bad habits that most of us all probably do, So if you're doing something incorrectly in your stroke, the chances are you're not the first one to do it. So it's understanding, for me as a coach, trying to identify those weaknesses or allowing that swimmer to identify them, but not just saying you're doing this wrong, but you're doing it wrong and it's causing this, or that's why you're doing it wrong. Your distance per stroke isn't great because your legs are sinking. Well, why your legs are sinking? Your head's probably too high. Why is that important? Because if your head's further down, your legs will be further up, and you'll be producing a lot less drag. So it's not just prescribing a drill or telling them that they're doing this wrong or right, but it's actually educating them on understanding there's a purpose behind everything we teach. There's a purpose behind everything you do within your stroke that's going to either help you or hinder you.
And I think that is the most important, is because you can sort of blindly listen to the advice, but when you understand why, I think that's a bit. It's more likely to last and honestly make a difference. Yeah,
and we actually spoke about this on the car ride over here. And I've always found, at least for a very long time, I would do like one-to-one lesson with an adult, for example. I've got a 30-minute window. And so it's like, well, what can I change in 30 minutes? If I'm honest, if they've been swimming all their life, I probably can't change too much in 30 minutes. So my approach has been, well, what can I teach them in 30 minutes? What can I educate them with in 30 minutes? Can I identify a couple of things within their stroke and give them enough information that they can go away and work it in their own time? And so that's been my goal with my in-person lessons or my in-person work. But then I also realized that, like, quite often you can remember it there and then, but you're going to forget about the next day, or like how much can I give them that they can go away and I'm not oversubscribing them with information where they've forgotten it all. So what I now do is I bring things online, so I can give them step-by-step processes where they can rewatch it, relearn it, remind themselves as much as they can, because you can only, like, as a swimmer, like, you can't think about 10 things at once. It's impossible to do that. And if you are doing that, you're gonna get really frustrated with what to work on, and it's gonna feel really difficult. So it's about picking one thing at a time, whether it's 15 minutes at a time in a session, one session at a time, one day at a time. Having a different focus each time you're in the water, I think, is really important. So being able to educate online now for me has been really important, because I'm not worried about them forgetting it straight away or not remember it the next day, because if they have forgotten about it, then they go back and they just rewatch it. And I mentioned working on cues. Like, when I swim, I think about different cues. It might be buzzwords, it might be a feeling, it might be a certain drill or a certain word that is going to just let me zone in on one specific area of my technique. And so it's just those gentle reminders, throughout. And I think that, like, that's very important to have a really good system in place. So for me as a coach, it's been great to bring things online with Swimmr and have somewhere that I can, offer genuine advice and genuine education for people, because it's not about trying to get that quick fix. There's some things that might immediately change in their stroke, but
as in life, though, there's a lot of slower progress you got to build on.
Yeah,
and refer to.
It takes a bit of commitment, and I think that's one thing swimming has taught me is commitment. And the reason that I swam 11 times a week is because you can't fix it all in one session. So you have to just commit to that long process. And we've spoken about setting goals and about the journey. And I think that's really important. Like, for you, it's for your Ultra 33.3 swim, ideally you've got a goal in mind on how you want that swim to go. Maybe it's there's certain times for each day that you want to try and get your swim done in. Maybe it's a feeling that you're going to feel afterwards, but really it's also about like from now until then, you know, that commitment you're going to show to yourself. You're going to see an improvement. So sure, you want the event to go well, but even if it's harder than you thought, like getting from here until there, like gaining open water experience, you know, working your technique a little bit, maybe, as you said before, improving your fitness, like those are,
It's all an adventure.
those are goals that doesn't matter what happens on the day. Those goals will happen no matter what if you commit to it. So I think that's really important. And something I wanted to mention as well is from someone that has recently done a couple of longer swims. We spoke about, you know, the differences on how it feels in the open water compared to in the pool. We've spoken about the technique differences, but there's also just processes that you go through. So a big one is in nutrition. So, I mean, for me, this was very new to me. Like when I swam in the pool, when I was training for 2 hours, my nutrition revolved around fueling before and fueling after my swim, because it was a super controlled environment. I could, you know, arrive at the pool, have a little fuel, and then after my session, refuel again. And that was very easy to get my head around. Going into the open water, you're then limited on when, because you're going to be in there for, you know, I was in the channel for 10 hours. So it's not like, oh, I'll just feel afterwards. I won't make it too fancy if I do that. You have to fuel on the go. So that's a new concept. It's like, how often should I fuel? What should I fuel with? So is that something that you've thought about so far for your event?
Not at a minute, but it is something that I need to be, like you just said, very aware of, because before then, I mean, like you said, in days gone by, events would be all done and dusted like that, and training pre and post, you could be home within 20 minutes. Whereas, like I said, these events, you need to think about it. And I'm older than I was. I'm not as fit as I was. Like, hydration is something key, because you don't have your swim bottle at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely something.
And it's important to, I think, like, the biggest thing if you're new to open water, coming from a pool swimming background, is getting experience in the open water. And whether that's signing up for events, getting event experience, or doing what we had planned to do today, is actually getting out into the open water and seeing what it feels like. And there's so many different things to learn from your first few open water swims. You know, one, it's like the murkiness of the water, it's the surrounding, it's maybe being a bit colder than your heart. Two, it's the equipment, wearing a wetsuit for the first time, knowing what kit to bring with you so that you can have an easy experience getting into the water, and then when you come out, being able to warm up correctly. But also the nutrition, so it's like experimenting with what works for you. So if you're cold and tired after the open water swim, what's the first thing you want to refuel? Is it a hot drink? Is it sugar? If you're in the middle of a swim, do you want to experiment with some gels, some carbohydrate gels, some fast, easy stuff? Do you want something more solid? Like, do you want to bring a banana or some sliced peaches? Or do you want a nice sugar rush, a handful of jelly babies or jelly beans? Like, all these little things. So on the nutrition side of things, it's getting used to, fueling on the go, because that's a brand new concept for a lot of people. Yeah. You know, what's going to suit you in your swim. So for your Ultra 33.3, on those longer swims, what are you going to want during swims? Like during your feed station, what kind of stuff are you going to want to take on? And for your shorter days, you know, what do you want before your swim and after your swim? So then, like, you can experiment with a lot of it, which is really good. And for you and for me, when I saw on the channel, was like, well, this is something new to me. And I like doing new things. I like finding new ways to improve. So playing around with the nutrition on the swims that you're doing before your event.
Before,
you know, it's like
no new things on the day.
No new things on the day. And it's funny because I've seen it quite a lot. It's like someone that's maybe doing their first triathlon, for example, you know, maybe come from a running background, and like they're on Instagram 5 days before their event, they're going for my first open water swim today. And it's like, this isn't going to go well. So it's getting experience of actually going and doing the swim, but it's also getting experience of like what to bring, you know, how to prepare for your swim, what to bring during your swim. All those little things that you maybe don't worry about too much are super important for race day, I guess.
Yeah. And same with the hydration thing as well. It's just, I think obviously there'll be stations and things, but it's a case of, I remember training, you don't take on too much water because obviously you get a bit buoyant, but at the same time, hydration is quite important.
Yeah.
It's all these different things that you, like I said, I think I'm going to be working my body, but I think I'm going to be working my brain a hell of a lot more.
Yeah. And I think what's nice to like identify those things now. So even hopefully within just this chat, kind of got to understand a little bit about your background, what your swimming looks like now. But then from now until Croatia, what are some of the things you want to work on? And it's having maybe some technique stuff to work on, and for you using, you know, your stroke count or having little cues to think about that's going to allow you to become a bit more technically aware of what works for you and what doesn't, so you can bring that into the open water. So you carry those cues and those skills into the open water. Working through the gears, so you've got a slower gear and a couple of faster gears, so that you know that it's not just go from the start, because if you've got a longer swim that day, you want to be able to pace it a bit better. So having those different gears, it's just gaining just genuine experience swimming outside. And that can just be from what it makes you feel, the temperature, just going through the processes and emotions. And then also, like we just touched on there, you know, the nutrition side of things as well, and making sure that you're feeling up to support the effort that you're putting in the water. So, and this just goes back to something we've always worked on as swimmers, is setting yourself a goal, finding ways to improve it. And I think that's really important. So yeah, I think you're starting a very exciting journey. You've obviously already had loads of experience in the pool, so it's just building on that. And it goes back to the start as well, like what type of swimmer are you? For me, I was an Olympic swimmer, and now I'm whatever swimmer I want to be. And the journey never doesn't stop. It's not chapters, it's just one, you know, one timeline as you progress. So it's cool that you're progressing into the open water side of things. So best of luck. Hopefully this has helped.
No, thanks. Yeah,
And
really helpful.
yeah, any more questions, I'm sure we can give you the answers and give you the confidence that you're going to do
For sure.
really well.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cheers.